All right, good morning, everybody. Hope you're well. How are you? Let's get this party started. What's going on, Pamela? Carrie, good to see you. Avasi, good. Hello. Good to see you. I'm trying to figure out, usually there's a message here on how many people are in the show, and I don't see it today, but that's okay. We'll have a good time. Woo, good morning from Alaska. Cheers, everybody. Today was a double cup. Today is 2 cups of coffee. I can't risk running low during the stream here. How are you guys doing? Good morning. Good morning. Woo! Welcome to First Things First, your cybersecurity morning threat briefing. My name is Gerald Auger. This is all about commentary, coffee, and friends, and we're going to be crushing it today, going through the top news stories with my analysis, your thoughts as well, and we're going to be talking about everything that you need to know so you can either A, crush a job interview, and B, killing it because you're fully informed on what's going on in the industry, or for some of us already working in the industry, you can use the knowledge to better inform yourself, your decision making, talking to the CIO, whatever it is, we're going to be doing it. Plus, chat, you guys are just the best. This is really a great part of my day, and thank you, each of you, for making that true. Real quick before we get into the show, someone recommended this book to me. This is How the World Ends, The Cyber Weapons Arm Race. I plan on reading this. I don't know if anyone else has read this yet. Thank you, Brendan. Yeah, I'll keep rolling. I don't know if anyone's read this book yet, but I'm excited to read this book. It got recommended to me by Insider PhD. She's a content creator also. So if you've read it, let me know. I'm looking forward to digging into it when I get some free time, because you know how much free time we all got, right, people? It's good morning. I also read an article on Vice this morning about how if you use GIFs, and it doesn't matter if you say GIF or GIF, if you use animated GIFs, you're officially old, apparently. I guess if you're people under the age of 30 do not use it, and they kind of look down on people that do use it. So I just got into using GIFs, so whatever. I'm going to embrace it. Good, Hefty Pegasus. I hope it's good. Oh, Dr. Joseph's read it. It's great. Okay, cool. David's got it. All right, so I'm definitely going to read it. I might even do a video or something, or a book report, a book report on it if anyone's interested. I don't know. I don't know if that's content people like, but we can get into it. Thank you, Kimberly. I'm with you. All right, guys. You guys, it's just the best. I'm going to finish this first cup of coffee and get into the second one. That's what today is. I got this cool color changing mug a friend of mine, when it gets hot, gave me. Very nice gift for presenting to his squadron. All right, y'all. You know the deal. If you want to follow along, please join us at cisoseries.com. This is where we're getting our headlines for today. Good morning, Doc. Good morning, Shinyuri. Appreciate the social post on that honeypot yesterday. Very nice. All right, people, let us enjoy ourselves some cybersecurity threat briefing.
From the CISO series, it's Cybersecurity Headlines.
It's Monday, January 24th, 2022. Ukraine attack update. Experts find strategic similarities with NotPetya. Latest analysis into the wiper malware that targeted dozens of Ukrainian agencies while disguised as ransomware has revealed strategic similarities to NotPetya, the malware that was unleashed against the country's infrastructure and elsewhere in 2017. This new malware, dubbed Whispergate, was discovered by Microsoft last week, which said it observed the campaign targeting government, nonprofit, and information technology entities in the nation. Cisco Talos adds, while Whispergate has some strategic similarities to the notorious NotPetya wiper, including masquerading as ransomware and targeting and destroying the master boot record instead of encrypting it, it notably has more components designed to inflict additional damage.
Okay, so I mean, this isn't a surprise, right? We talked about how NotPetya was a very similar attack, right? With a wiper basically screwing over whoever the victim is, in this case, the Ukrainian government, because you basically have to start from bare metal, right? It's terribly painful from a time, resource, impact of operations. Effect. So it's not surprising that it's very similar to NotPetya. Listen, bad guys, bad girls, good girls, or women, whatever you want to say it, right? Like everybody's human. No one's going to rewrite malware from scratch. If you have a library, right? That's why we import modules in Python, right? If you've got a library of stuff, you're just going to import the master boot record wiper module. You're just going to import the keylogger module, right? So it's very not surprising, frankly, that this was very similar in composition and execution. So maybe they might be able to tie the. I mean, they've already kind of unofficially attributed it to Russia, but it would be interesting if they can tie the source codes to each other to see. Plus, another thing they said is that Whispergate, which I guess is what they're calling this malware, I didn't know that. Whispergate is got more functionality than NotPetya. Like obvious, like how that's not really surprising, right? Like they've had 4 years to develop it. Of course, they're going to increase and refine and improve the overall function, right? All right.
Mole rats use Google Drive and Dropbox as attack infrastructure. In December 2021, Threat Labs researchers identified several macro-based MS Office files used in attacks against entities in the Middle East. The bait files employed in cyber espionage attacks contain decoy themes related to geopolitical conflicts between Israel and Palestine. Similar bait files had been used in previous cyber espionage campaigns attributed to the Mole Rats APT group, an Arabic-speaking politically motivated group of hackers that has been active since 2012. Cloud services, including Google Drive and Dropbox, are being used to host the malicious payloads or for command and control infrastructure.
Okay, so this one's a really good one. Good to know. This is not groundbreaking, people. The way that I'm hearing this is more like it's just an uptick in activity using like Dropbox, Google Drive, Box.com, like these file sharing services is not new. You got to remember that my firewall, your firewall, we're going to allow that activity to go back and forth because there's legitimate use cases for those services, frankly, to be employed, right? Whether you use them internally or whether you're working with third parties that use them, it's not going to look funny on the wire, right? No one's going to see activity to Dropbox in a SIM and be like, oh, we better investigate. So again, looking at this kind of execution chart, you got to really focus like over here on your EDR. Like this is where the endpoint is, right? So you've got to be have heightened awareness that this is happening. So your EDR needs to be able to detect malicious macros running. You should have your baseline configuration set so you're not running macros by default. You should educate your end users that this is an attack vector and that they should not be like enabling or running macros, and show them. Another thing threat actors do that if you don't know about, like you'll open the PowerPoint and it'll literally just be an image saying you can't view this, you need to enable macros, right? And there's nothing behind it, right? It's literally a social engineering, a trick. You need to show your end users that so they understand, because a lot of people, unfortunately, Hollywood has done a wonderful job. A lot of people think that like when they run malware on the computer, there's like a giant Pac-Man eating their screen, or like there's going to be like a skull and crossbones, and it just doesn't happen like that. Like good malware, you have no clue it's running unless it's ransomware, and then like it's supposed to be quite overt. So there's a lot of opportunity here to this is like a really rich story to be able to take action in your organization. They also talk about a .NET backdoor running here. This .NET backdoor would be on your endpoint as well. And obviously we don't want backdoors up in here. So just be aware of that. And of course, we've got the Guy Fawkes hacker. All right, let's keep on rolling.
Senators introduce bill to protect satellites from getting hacked. The Satellite Cybersecurity Act would empower CISA to develop voluntary satellite cybersecurity recommendations for the private sector, essentially providing a list of best practices for how to keep systems secure. The bill would also require the U.S. Government Accountability Office to conduct a study that looks at the ways the federal government currently supports cybersecurity for the commercial satellite industry. Quote, as commercial satellites become more pervasive, hackers could shut satellites down, denying access to their service or jam signals to disrupt electric grids, water networks, transportation systems, and other critical infrastructure, end quote. This is from a press release from the U.S. Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, which announced the bill's introduction on Wednesday.
Okay, so this is good. I mean, personally, I feel like this is an area of interest, an area of concern that has really seen very little focus or activity because it's basically out of this world, right? LOL. All right. Like, listen, satellites, as we become more dependent on them, especially if you think of like what Elon Musk is doing with satellite link or whatever that thing is called, like Superlink. I'm sure chat's going to correct me on what that is called. But if we start to have a dependence on this satellites, right, beyond just getting TV, right, then it becomes a more that, and geopolitically, you could weaponize knocking those offline and obviously disrupting regular critical infrastructure. I do want to say, I feel like the hack a satellite. I feel like there was a government run event. Yeah, Hackasat, right? Oh wait, you guys aren't. I'm so sorry. You staring at me, Jesus, guys. Like, as a quick aside, I am sorry when I forget to go back to the other camera angle, and you guys are just staring at me. I'm staring at a computer screen. Like, sincere apologies on that. So listen, this hack a satellite thing. They've been doing this for a few years. The U.S. Air Force runs this, so the government has been thinking about this, which is great. So hopefully this bill can go further to Starling. Thanks. Hopefully this bill can go further to driving money, driving resources, driving focus into protecting satellites. Because I don't know about you guys, but I have no clue what operating systems it's running on. I know, like, for example, the helicopter that's on Mars, which isn't exactly a satellite, it has the log4j vulnerability running on it, right? So these things are vulnerable. So, good on them. Oh yeah. Let's keep on keeping.
McAfee Agent Bug lets hackers run code with Windows system privileges.
Ugh.
McAfee Enterprise, now rebranded as Trellix, has patched this security vulnerability discovered in the company's McAfee Agent software for Windows. McAfee Agent is a client-side component of McAfee ePolicy Orchestrator that downloads and enforces endpoint policies and deploys antivirus signatures, upgrades, patches, and new products on enterprise endpoints. While only exploitable locally, threat actors commonly exploit this type of security flaw during later stages of their attacks after infiltrating the target machine to elevate permissions for gaining persistence and further compromising the system.
All right. A couple things here. One, you'll never see me promoting or having anything Simply Cyber sponsored by McAfee. I'm not really a fan of their product line. What's interesting with this story, whether it's McAfee, if you are running McAfee, obviously make sure that your agents are updated with the newest version of the software, since they have patched it on the client side. But it's worth noting, okay, guys, like, if you're, regardless of whatever you're running, a lot of these, AV agents, EDR agents, a lot of times they're required to execute in an area that is not looked at, right? Because they're doing all sorts of stuff. They don't want to impact backups and misfire stuff. So a lot of times they're given kind of permissions to not be looked at, quote unquote. So when you're doing that, you have to be cognizant that there's like a little gap in your environment that could be exploited. This one, they're talking about actually having the agent do privilege escalation and then be able to execute commands. So a lot of times we think of user accounts and what privileges they have, and but there are system accounts basically that you have to be cognizant of and what they're running under. It gets very difficult. I will tell you, there's a reason that identity and access management in the last probably 5 years has morphed into its own discipline within the cybersecurity industry. If you want to call it a discipline within the industry, some people argue that it's under IT. But you just got to be cognizant of it. Long story short, make sure if you're using McAfee that you got it patched. Tell your IT people we need this done ASAP. Although the risk of this is low because you have to be local to execute. But to me, it would be obvious that if you get an initial foothold, threat actors would then try to look to see if you're running McAfee to take advantage of it at that point.
And now a word from CISA adds 17 vulnerabilities to the list of bugs exploited in attacks. The KnownExploited Vulnerabilities catalog is a list of vulnerabilities that have been seen abused by threat actors in attacks and that are required to be patched by federal civilian executive branch agencies. With the addition of these 17 vulnerabilities, the catalog now contains a total of 341 vulnerabilities and includes the date by which agencies must apply security updates to resolve the bug. Added to this list now are the bugs alleged to have hacked the Ukraine government offices and the SolarWinds ServU improper input validation bug,
which we talked about last week. Guys, this is really cool. It's worth noting. I haven't done this, so this is kind of one of those do what I say, not what I do. Although I really should take my own advice on this one. CISA is posting these vulnerabilities, right, and telling you that they are being exploited. So when you think about the overall risk of certain vulnerabilities, you have to elevate and escalate these ones to a higher level. Guys, listen, when you're doing vulnerability management, it's easy to get overwhelmed, right? Patch Tuesday seems to come very quickly every month, right? You're just finishing patching and now you've got another Patch Tuesday and you're just like, oh, can't I do my actual job? So this list that CISA is putting out, I really appreciate it. And I would encourage you guys to go to the actual, not the story, but where CISA is posting these things and treat those particular vulnerabilities as higher priority, right? So if you only have 1 hour of time to do threat and vulnerability management, focus on making sure that those ones are actually addressed, not just whatever your vulnerability scanner spits out, today. Okay. So this is an informed threat and vulnerability management activity. And I love that CISA is doing this. This is like Jen Easterly's fingerprints all over it. Very awesome.
Merck wins NotPetya cyber insurance lawsuit. Speaking of NotPetya, a New Jersey court has ruled in favor of pharmaceutical company Merck in a lawsuit they filed against their insurer, Ace American. Ace American had declined to cover the losses caused by the NotPetya ransomware attack. This incident, which took place in June 2017 and which impacted thousands of companies all over the world, destroyed data on more than 40,000 Merck computers and took the company months to recover. Merck estimated the damage at $1.4 billion, a loss caused by production outage, costs to hire IT experts, and costs of buying new equipment to replace all affected systems. Ace American had refused to cover the losses, citing that the NotPetya attack was subject to the standard acts of war exclusion clause that is present in most insurance contracts. But Merck argued in court that the attack was not an official state action, hence the acts of war clause should not apply, and the court agreed. Several insurers have recently updated the language of their acts of war exclusion clauses accordingly.
Yes, Poulant, this is quite precedent setting. And I remember when this happened, guys, this was like huge, right? A lot of companies can't suffer a $1.4 billion loss and keep going in business, right? So Merck, guys, like we've talked about this on the channel before. I think BSEC and I have had some conversations on channel. Like if you don't know about the NotPetya attack and what it did, and how it was executed, so technically it's quite interesting, but what its ramifications and ripple impact was, it's an awesome case study on basically cyber weapons. Merck is a giant transportation shipping logistics company, right? Global. And the way that they had to recover from this, it's a stroke of luck that they had one domain controller that wasn't online. Their entire global infrastructure got taken down by a wiper, just like we talked about in the first story. And the fact that the insurance company was not able to basically not pay out because an act of war is huge. Especially, again, we all play on one internet, right? Two geopolitical parties shooting at each other with cyber weapons. It's on the same internet as we are, right? So it's like shooting in the streets of the Wild West, right? You could just be walking down the street and get hit, much like Merck did. So this is really interesting. This is not relative to anything you're doing specifically, but if you do get impacted, know that if you have cyber insurance policies, that this precedent now has been set. So you can, like, I'm not sure how many people are going to have their insurance company claim that they're not going to pay out because of this, but this is huge. Definitely something to bookmark and remember.
Moonbounce UEFI
Thanks,
bootkit
Aber.
can't be removed by replacing the hard drive. Security researchers from Kaspersky said on Thursday that they had discovered a novel bootkit that can infect a computer's UEFI firmware. Named Moonbounce, the malware doesn't burrow and hide inside the ESP section of the hard drive, but instead it infects the SPI memory that is found on the motherboard. This means that, unlike similar bootkits, defenders cannot reinstall the operating system and replace the hard drive, as the bootkit will continue to remain on the infected device until the SPI memory is reflashed, a very complex process, or the motherboard is replaced. Okay.
Wow. Okay, so this is incredibly sophisticated. Do you want to talk about advanced persistent threat, sophisticated threat actors? This one is incredibly sophisticated. Essentially, the UEFI is, I'm not an expert in this lower level thing, but a lot of the modern operating systems, Windows, they rely on hardware and firmware underneath to do things like BitLocker and some other secure functions and features. And the UEFI kit is firmware that allows certain things to happen. What's interesting is that there is actual volatile memory inside the UEFI firmware, this SPI memory that they're able to edit. Because when I think firmware, I think firmware. That's why it's called firmware. It's firm. It's not random access memory. So I'm not surprised they're saying that it's linked to APT41, which is China's like strong arm cyber department or capability, right? They have several different groups in China, but APT41 is kind of the offensive one. Not surprised. I have no idea how you would detect that you're infected by this. Again, as a general citizen, as a normal user, I'm not super concerned about my organization getting hit with this. It's incredibly painful to recover from this because, as they put in the story, you can't just reflash the OS. You have to flash the firmware again. But this is one of those ones where I'm not concerned unless it becomes mainstream. They don't talk about how difficult it is to execute the attack. I mean, if you just think about it for a minute, it has to execute on the endpoint and then somehow get down into the lower level. You definitely would have to have privileged access. I don't know. This one is an interesting one to study, but whatever. I'm not worried about it, but it is an interesting novel attack. Okay. Plus, I love I like the names, right? Moonbounce, like that's kind of cool. I mean, I whatever. It's one of the small things that I always enjoy is like the names of the attacks and stuff like that.
Now we have to worry about brainjacking.
Uh-oh.
Brainjacking is a type of cyber attack in which a hacker obtains unauthorized access to neural implants in a human body. Hacking surgically implanted devices in a human brain could allow an attacker to control the patient's cognition and functions. With the potential for multiple intrusions and attacks on connected medical devices, healthcare providers continue to be the primary target for cybercriminals. In line with research, about 83% of connected medical devices are at security risk for running on outdated software. Researchers from Oxford Functional Neurosurgery also warn of blind attacks, which could cause severe damage to implants, including cessation of stimulation, draining implant batteries, inducing tissue damage, information theft, impairment of motor function, alteration of impulse control, modification of emotions, and induction of pain.
Jeez. All right. So this is a thing we have to worry about now. Guys, I worked in healthcare for 6 years. We're definitely not prepared to protect from this attack. It would be so messed up to basically, what they're talking about is at the level where like the neural implant is controlling your everything. So you're essentially a cyborg. Um, and it's a real attack, right? I mean, we've seen Hollywood's dramatized it. We've heard some research around attacking a pacemaker and causing someone to die. I think the show 24 sensationalized that particular attack. Um, we're a ways away from being able to execute an elegant attack where you basically can make someone do something that they don't want to against their own free will, or incite their emotions and stuff like that. I mean, you might be able to coerce them the way that Cambridge Analytica did with targeted messaging during 2016 election. But I don't know. I, for one, am not getting in line to have a neural implant jacked into my head. Yes, learning kung fu in 10 seconds like the Matrix would be super awesome, but I'll wait. I'll wait until like the hypercurve, or the hyper loop thing. I'll wait until it's like way up here on the top of the parabola before I get into adoption. I'll let some other people go first in line before I plug into my head. I do know that some research, they've actually successfully embedded a neural link into a pig. Elon Musk is doing some work around that space. Manchurian candidate to name just one. There's a lot of implications. I mean, you're talking about removing the part that makes you human, right? Your free will, your cognizant, your perspective, your opinion, your own self. So, like I said, I will allow someone else to do that for me. Go first, okay? Definitely not something you need to bring up in this week's IT meeting. You don't need to bring this up unless there's an opportunity to talk about some novel, interesting stuff that's happening in this space.
We're just getting.
Yeah, no, Richard, don't get me wrong. Okay, so to this point, right? If the risk versus reward on why I would want a neural link, like I get paralyzed from the neck down and a brain chip's going to give me my ability to walk back, yeah, plug me in. But just proactive elective surgery to upgrade my body as like, the 2023 model when my 2021 model works just fine, or my 1979 model. Yeah. So if there's a good reason for it, absolutely. But at that, like, I don't know, I might look into like an exoskeleton or something before I look into a brain chip. I just don't think the technology's there yet, frankly. But they're looking at it. Okay, so what
Started with another great week of episodes here at Cybersecurity Headlines.
Yep, love cybersecurity headlines, guys. Big fan. I do want to give a shout out really quick to the squad members who help basically support this show. Arturo just joined yesterday. Janice also joined yesterday. Simon, love it. Brian and Russell, we've got our mastermind meeting this week, so definitely appreciate all the support that you guys do for the channel and keeping it running. If you're interested in cyber cartography, or Ricky Tan, who has an awesome YouTube channel called Cyberspatial, he's coming on stream Thursday at 4:30 to talk about the actual field of cyber cartography. He's a former Army Ranger, so we might be able to get into some of that. But as far as innovative career paths and opportunities, that's really what the focus of the conversation is going to be. He's doing some great stuff. And I personally, when he told me that's what his job was, I fancy myself someone who knows a thing or two about cybersecurity, and I'd never heard of this role. So that's why I was like, you've got to come on and we've got to talk about it, right? All right, guys, if you don't know about it and you're interested, come over to simplycyber.io/Discord, join the conversation. We basically got the conversation continues on, a lot of networking, a lot of knowledge sharing. It's an opportunity to connect with the community and be part of a really great community that cares about InfoSec and cares about each other. That's going to do it for this week. Let me get my outro music because I love my midnight, right? Guys, be good. Smash that like button, Pete. Thank you so much. Have a great, wonderful week, guys. We started off solid. It's Monday, January 24th. We've got a lot going on tomorrow, 10 a.m., because I'm teaching at 8. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., we will be doing the cybersecurity threat briefing. If you got value, hit like. That's really cool, and I enjoy that. But more importantly, I would prefer you share it with someone else who would get value out of it, right? We have a good time on here, but we do good work. We're educating, we're sharing knowledge, and that's really valuable, especially if someone doesn't know about it, a way to do that. Thank you so much for subscribing, George. Appreciate that. Guys, be good, and we'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Cheers, everybody.